It's the 100-year-old man who climbed out the window and disappeared, which is this huge, rip-roaring Swedish success in Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark. Absolutely, tore the roof off the box office. Was a Christmas opening. Did really well, based on the novel by Jonas Jonasson, which you may have read because I know you're sort of very erudite, and it has done well over here. Although actually, it took no, but
no, we haven't done that.
But it took a few years to be picked up because it was 2009 Scandinavian publication, and then sold several million copies around Europe before finally getting published here in 2012. So the story is, as the title suggests, 100-year-old man who is in an old age people's home climbs out of a window and disappears. He goes off on a sort of a trail of accidental destruction. He goes to a bus stop where he accidentally, sort of deliberately, picks up a suitcase which is full of money. Consequently, he's being followed by an angry biker gang. He ends up teaming up with an aging rogue. People start, getting knocked off around him. He ends up meeting up with an incomplete man and a woman who's got a pet elephant, a man who can't complete anything and keeps saying that his life isn't complete and nothing. And then they meet a woman who's got a pet elephant, and all these sort of roguish things happen. Meanwhile, he flashes back to his past, which is a Forrest Gump-like story in which his paths cross with Franco and Stalin and Truman and Oppenheimer and Reagan and all these characters through history. And as he sort of weaves this way through history, his main joy in life is that he's an explosives expert and he enjoys blowing things up. And essentially, it takes that thing from Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates, and replaces it with life is what it is. And it's a very odd thing because, whereas the Scandi noir stuff has done incredibly well over here, and Stieg Larsson and all that stuff, and, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, blah, blah. It is true that Scandinavian humour, it's no laughing matter. And, you watch the film and it is...
You've been working on that?
No, because that's an old gag. But... it's rather than having laughs in it, it has sort of wry satirical stuff. But apparently, when it played in Scandinavian cinemas, people really, really did find it funny. It stars the star of it, the guy who plays the main character, Robert Gustafsson, has earned himself the title of the funniest man in Sweden, which sounds like the absolute epitome of damning with faint praise. Musically, the film kind of owes a harumphing debt to Emir Kustaritska's Underground. There's lots of kind of brass band music that tells you all the time that this is quirky and this is offbeat and this is strange, even while catastrophes and atom bombs and wars and deaths and decapitations are going on. So it's blackly comic in a kind of, picaresque way, and you could also see it to some extent as a reworking of Candide. Mm. But the problem that I have with it is that in order for it to work, you have to find it more amusing than I found it. And I did. It was one of those classic things about humour translates a lot less well than some other things like horror.
Just one point. Yeah. We need to go to news and sport. I interviewed Eddie Izzard this week about Monty Python because it is a show from the O2. And Eddie Izzard says there is no such thing as British comedy or American comedy or German comedy. There's just comedy by British people, or there is comedy by... So are you saying that this Scandinavian humour which is not translating, or is it just not? It's just not funny. What I would say is, when I watched it, I didn't find it funny enough for the film to carry off its kind of, its dark Forrest Gump thing. However, I have it on good authority that in the Scandinavian territories, it has been received people have found it a lot funnier. In the same way that Stonk was a massive comic hit in Germany, and yet I sat in a cinema. So I'm not saying that it's not funny. What I'm saying is its humour hasn't translated, and therefore what you're left with is a kind of embittered retelling of Forrest Gump that becomes a bit patience-wearing after a while, because it has that kind of same tortuous sort of structure as, for example, the young and prodigious T.S. Spivet, or Lemony Snicket's series of misadventures, the idea of catastrophe upon catastrophe upon catastrophe. And I don't think it plays here anything like as well as it did in Scandinavian territories.